Hi, hello, I'm Shannon, your creative mentor. At least I hope you let me be your creative mentor. If you found this video, you are probably wanting to have prettier Instagram pictures or just learn how to take a better photo in general. Regardless, I am so happy that you're here and thank you so much for watching my very first YouTube video ever. Okay, so this isn't my very first YouTube video because I've been posting shorts for months. However, this is my first long form video, so you know, it's different, right? So before we dive into the 5 things that you're probably doing wrong when taking pictures, here's a little bit about me and how I actually got into taking photos. I'm a freelance graphic designer and creative director, which I've been doing for over a decade, and I'm also a content creator, which I've been doing for 8 years. I not only create content for my channels, but I also create content for other businesses as well. I got serious about taking photos in high school, which was it was kind of a long time ago, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, so I started my travel blog back in 2015, mostly because I liked taking photos when I was traveling, and people kept asking me where the locations were that I was taking those photos, so that's where the blog came in. Through the years of photography classes in art school, and then taking portrait headshot photos and event photography at my old corporate job, and then thousands and thousands of photos around the world, I really honed in on my skills and my craft. And then people started to ask me how to take the photos versus actually asking me where I was taking them. So now I teach people how to take a better photo and generally how to create content with ease and confidence. Okay, introduction over. Let's get into the good stuff. Taking photos can be super simple, but it also can be pretty dang complicated. There's a lot to think about when taking a photo, and you have to remember before you take the photo, and while you're taking the photo, and then after you took the photo as well. Like sure, you could take out your phone, snap a quick pic in a second, put your phone away, call it a day, but will that photo that you took turn out looking like those Instagram and Pinterest photos that you envy? No, probably not. So much of a photo is about the lighting and the composition and the posing and the angles, and the list goes on and on. But again, that's a lot. That's a lot to process and comprehend. So before we get into talking about those things, let's talk about some just simple, quick, and easy tips. If you are not a professional photographer and don't really want to be a professional photographer and are just somebody who wants to take nicer photos with your friends or of your family when you're out and about, this definitely is for you. Here are 5 things that you're probably doing wrong when you're taking photos. And these aren't in any particular order, but they're all really important. First up, not looking around your surroundings and background before you take a photo. Tell me how many times that you've taken a photo and then you look at it afterwards and there's a random tree like sprouting up behind your head, or like a random pole that looks like it's like growing from your shoulder. You know the ones that I'm talking about, like this or this one. Yeah, nobody likes those photos, right? So in order to not have that happen, take a few seconds before snapping the photo and like take a look around. Are you standing in front of a bunch of trees? Is there anything that might look weird behind you? Instead, look for an open space. You really could do this from either side of the camera. Like if you are going to be in front of the camera, like you are going to be in the picture, before you turn around to face the camera, look around you and see if there's anything that could look like it would be coming out of your head. And if you are the one snapping the photo, be a good friend. Speak up and say something. Have your friend shift a couple inches, or you yourself could change your angle to eliminate anything growing out of their head. Tip number 2, stop cutting off your limbs. Okay, I know that sounded really, really weird, but you know you've probably done this before. Cropping out your foot because maybe it just didn't fit in the Instagram dimensions when you went to go post your picture, or not even realizing that your fingers didn't make the cut. So these are the acceptable places to crop your photos. At the torso, at the waist, the thigh, and the shin. And we're not talking about necessarily always cropping your photo after the fact. You could also frame your photo like this while you're taking your photo. And the rule of thumb is if it bends, don't crop there. My suggestion is to just give yourself more space. Not like so much space where you're so tiny and you have to drastically crop into the photo after it's taken, but enough. So if you're taking a full body shot, just make sure there's enough negative space around you, your head, and around your body. That way you're not accidentally cropping off the end of your foot when you go to post it on Instagram. All right, moving on to tip number 3. Step away from your background. I'm mostly referring to when you're standing in front of a wall or like a solid background. And the reason this could be a problem is because more often than not, it creates a really harsh, dark shadow behind you. Instead of standing a few inches from the wall or like literally up against the wall, okay, you're not gonna be that dramatic, but take a few steps away from the wall to give you some distance. And if this is in the middle of the day, you may need to take more than a few steps, more like more than a few feet. By standing further away from the wall, you are creating that distance so your shadow won't actually be able to reach it, making you more of the focal point in your picture because you quite literally won't be being overshadowed. AKA, you're not having to compete visually with a shadow. This, of course, can vary depending on the lighting situation and the time of day, or if you're trying to do some shadow play. Okay, so before we continue down the list, if you're looking to start taking better photos and you're actually trying to learn about photography or just want to support me in my brand new channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Tip number 4, never turning the camera vertically. This kind of might be a pet peeve of mine, or maybe it's kind of a little bit of boomer mentality, but how many times have you been to a really, really packed tourist location and you look around and see that every single person who's trying to take a picture is standing there with their phone horizontally turned? Because I sure have seen that a lot. Why I say that might be a little bit boomer mentality, and I don't mean that with any disrespect, it's just that my observation has been that people who tend to turn their phones horizontally to take a photo tend to be a little bit older. The younger generations who have grown up with cell phones glued to their hands, or you know, what, Game Boys, Walkmans, I might be dating myself there a little bit, but that generation tends to shoot vertically, especially because a lot of the photos that they take tend to go up on Instagram or TikTok, and those platforms just tend to favor vertical content. On the flip side, it's important to note that never turning your camera horizontally when you always shoot vertically can also be limiting. When taking photos, it's all about variety. Try a new angle or new orientation, and it can really open up your eyes to different perspectives. Moral of the story, try not to stick to only one orientation all of the time. Switch it up and diversify your photos. Lastly, tip number 5, not cutting out distractions. And by distractions, I mean the random trash can that's like a couple feet away from you in the picture, or the dirty pile of dishes that may be on the table at a restaurant. To cut out distractions, just get closer. Yes, physically. You could zoom in after you take the photo or while you're taking the photo, but honestly that could affect the quality of your photo, especially if you have an older generation phone or camera. So physically get closer. The alternative is just to shift your angle to physically remove the clutter by not having it in the frame anymore. So let's use the pile of dishes for example. Say you're at brunch with a group of friends, you guys haven't seen each other in a while and you're having a really great time catching up, and you just finished your meal and then you realize, oh my gosh, we haven't been together in so long, we really need to document that we got together. So let's take a photo now before we forget. So somebody hands off their phone to the waiter, they take a photo, and then they give you the phone back so you can review, and oh my god, ew, there is a plate of syrup-covered, half-eaten waffles on a plate, and then a stack of dishes from all the sides of bacon that you got, not to mention all of the crumpled up used napkins thrown all over the table. Okay, this all might be an exaggeration, but this is not Instaworthy, right? So instead, yes, you can move the pile of dishes off to the side, but also ask the person who's taking your photos to focus more on you and your group. They can physically cut out the table and the pile of dishes so that you and your group are the only thing that you're paying attention to in that photo. And there you have it. Those are 5 tips that will help you start transforming your photos. Of course, there is so much more to cover in terms of creating better photos, so make sure you subscribe and tune in. We have so much more to talk about.